Mary, Mary, quite contrary, how do your heretics burn? Big finish time once again, and I was actually quite excited for the one that the Patreon supporters decided to have me watch, because yes, if you join the Patreon, you do get to help vote on what Doctor Who related things we're going to talk about month to month. So hey, get the plug in there early and as smoothly as you possibly can. Nobody likes a rough insertion of a plug. I gotta stop. I'm so sorry. Anyways, what they have selected for me is a Sixth Doctor audio adventure, which I'm really loving the Sixth Doctor Big Finish stories, and it's really giving me an appreciation of what Colin Baker's Doctor should have been on the show, but wasn't, and it really does bring out the true potential of him in the role. And the one that I get to talk about this time is the Marion Conspiracy. So this is the introduction of what basically became, I think, inarguably the most beloved companion for the Sixth Doctor in the audio era. That is Evelyn Smythe. Now, this is not my first encountering Evelyn, because she was in Jubilee, which I already reviewed last year. But this is her introductory story. And I'm always nervous at companion introduction stories, whether it is in audio or in the show itself, because they tend to they tend to just not deliver on all fronts more often than not, which is kind of par for the course, because if you're introducing a brand new companion, you've got to get all the logistics out of the way of explaining who they are. You need to get them, figure out the dynamic with the Doctor. We need to get to know them. And you're also trying to tell a story. In addition to doing all of that, things tend to get the short shrift. I think a big part of the way that this manages to dodge that bullet, because it does, is by doing something that Doctor Who does not do very often anymore. And that is to tell a straight historical. And by that I mean not only are we in a historical setting dealing with famous figures from history, but there is no alien. There's no sci-fi wizardry. Nobody is deliberately messing with time. It's just the figures who were around at this period in history, and the Doctor and the companion encountering them. Straight historicals are really a rarity at this point. I mean, honestly, that's not even new. Even the classic era kind of got off them really kind of, I think by the time the Second Doctor was done, they really didn't do them anymore. You'd still get things set in historical settings, but there would be an alien there. The Master would be there, whatever. But this is just dealing with a historical period, and it fits very nicely into Evelyn's backstory and her character. So we have a slightly simplified story, because we're not dealing with the sci-fi element inserted into the history, and the history that we're doing doesn't feel like it's taking away from us getting to know Evelyn, because it feeds into what she knows and what she likes and gives her a lot to work with in terms of us getting to know her as a character, and same for the Doctor getting to know her. So Evelyn is a history professor, and sort of Elizabethan era England is her specialty. It's her focus. It's what she has a lot of interest in. She has tracked her own family back to those times, and that's kind of where the problems start, because something has happened that it's just like something's a little off, and time is trying to sort itself out, but things look like they might be slightly off. And the Doctor has determined that it is centered, or at least tangentially related to, Evelyn. He's basically got he has whatever the Sixth Doctor's equivalent of the thing Tennant had in The Dead Planet. It dings when there's stuff. He basically has one of those, and he finds Evelyn with, like, there's something going on, and you're at the nexus of it. And so he travels with her back to Elizabeth, and she hardly misses a beat. I love that. Like, he has a time machine. Oh, all right. I'm just going to go back in time and make sure everything's going as it should. Okay, well, then I'm going with you. Like, she is so wonderfully unfazed, but not in a way that's like, seen it all. She's not unimpressed. She's just unfazed. And I do think that's a really fine line to ride, because you risk, having the whole disaffected, no, nothing moves me. She's clearly excited by all of this. It's just a lot of the stuff that characters normally get hung up on. She just kind of is like, oh, well, I guess that's just how that works then. Okay. And she's just very good at rolling with things. And she's also supremely unimpressed with the Doctor himself. Not in terms of what he's capable of doing, but just as a person. She doesn't think he's really very much to write home about. Which is a wonderful dynamic, especially, God, as someone who came to know Doctor Who in the modern Doctor Who era, where the companions, pretty much all of them, even, the ones that I love, they worship at the altar of the Doctor. They think the Doctor is the end-all, be-all, and the most amazing thing ever. And it's refreshing to have a companion who goes, look, I enjoy traveling with you, but you're not everything you think you are. And I like that. I love that about her. So plot-wise, they go back, and the intention was they were going to go back to sort of the early years of Queen Elizabeth I's reign. Unfortunately, they've showed up slightly early, and her sister, Queen Mary, is currently on the throne. And through some misunderstandings about when they landed, they find themselves wrapped up with some of the Protestant conspirators who are either hiding from or in some way attempting to dethrone or possibly even kill Mary. And there's a lot of interesting stuff sort of at play in terms of how to deal with that, because Mary is not well regarded by history, largely for burning Protestants who wouldn't convert to Catholicism. And history has kind of painted her as a monster, which, that's a monstrous thing she did. Not going to say it's entirely unfair. But what I like about this story is it does still treat her as a human being. It never lets her off the hook for what she's doing, but it also gives her the layers that you can go, oh yeah, this was a real person. This was not a caricature cackling villain. This was somebody who honestly and sincerely thought she was doing something good. There's some amazing conversations between her and the Doctor, and then later between the Doctor and Evelyn, talking about all this, where, she doesn't want to be having people burnt at the stake, but she does believe that if she does this, and even if she does have to actually burn people for it, that this will save somebody. That if she can scare, basically through these tactics, just one Protestant into converting to Catholicism, in her mind, she has saved their soul. And that is a price worth paying if she can save even only one soul. And there's a lot of kindness and love for her people at the heart of what she's doing. But what she's doing is still monstrous because of the way that she has latched onto this belief and how to go about it. And it's kind of tragic in a way, as the Doctor tries to get her to understand what it is that she's doing, but that, and she even has some degree of understanding and sympathy, but still ultimately falls back on, but this is still a heretical religion. I can't let this stand. So it's really well balanced, that entire dynamic, and the other characters that play are all pretty interesting. There's a priest, there's a couple of commoners, there's a French bishop, there's a lady in waiting to the Queen, all sort of involved and come up at various points, and everyone does a good job. But the real highlight here is Evelyn. But Evelyn, the Doctor, and Mary are sort of the trifecta of what the focus is, and they're all really good. I wouldn't put this at the very top of my list for the big finish I've listened to, because I tend to appreciate the slightly more out there stuff and some of the bolder stuff. It's a big part of what I really loved about the Holy Terror. It's kind of what I liked about the Fearmonger. And being a straight historical, it's not really going to get out there. I mean, it can't. The nature of telling a straight historical without the sci-fi elements injected into it means that's just not going to happen. But I did still really like this. It's really well written. It's really well performed. There's fantastic dynamics and some fairly well-made points and good questions asked, which, again, at the same time, it never feels like, both sides being like, there's merit to both sides. It's still very much going like, no, what she did was wrong, but still sort of trying to give some understanding to, you do have to understand she is still a person who believes she's doing right. That doesn't make what she did okay, but we can't pretend like she had no feeling about what she was doing, because she did. That's why she did it. So yeah, I thought it was well balanced, because it's difficult, and obviously this is a fictional story, but whether we're talking about fiction or talking about real history or things that kind of bridge the two like this does, it's often difficult to try and humanize monstrous people in a way that doesn't feel like you're letting them off the hook for the things that they did. But I feel like this was able to walk that line really, really well. I was impressed with this. I need to get some more stuff with Evelyn and the Sixth Doctor, because they're really great together. Oh boy. I mean, we'll see what else I got to listen to, but they're not that far off from like Seventh Doctor and Ace, or Tennant and Donna, like in terms of like ideal pairings of companion to Doctor. They're really phenomenal. So, that's the Marion Conspiracy. Have you heard it? What did you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments, and we'll talk about it. Whole bunch of stuff to do. Buttons, links, the Patreon I mentioned. I got a P.O. box. It's my birthday this month. If you feel like, being generous, sending stuff. Whatever. I'm a selfish bugger. What can I say? But anyway, all that information is down in the description. So, give it a look, or don't. That's actually perfectly okay too, because at the end of the day, you are the council. I'm just running the meetings, and until next time, this council is adjourned.